Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Will. How are you?
Hey, Alan. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, my friend. Hanging in there, like we all are.
That's all we could do. Yes, sir.
Thanks for taking some time this morning to join us on the Music on the Menu podcast. For those tuning in, listening online, Will is the former executive director of the FM Kirby Center in Wilkes-Barre and the current general manager of the Mohegan Sun Arena in Wilkes-Barre Township. He's done a lot of great things for this community with entertainment, and pleasure to have you on the line this morning. So thank you, Will.
Well, first of all, thank you for those kind words, and secondly for having me on. I'm a big fan of what you do, Alan, and I think kind of pivoting off of all the stuff going on right now and doing these podcasts is a great idea, and I'm just excited to be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. The first thing that I'm asking everybody, Will, before we get to how this has affected your work and working through the entertainment industry at this time with music and other events as well, is how are you doing? Has everything good with the family? Everybody hanging in there all right?
Yeah, we're all doing well, thankfully, and I appreciate you asking. I feel like multiple times a day someone will ask me that, and I just keep saying the same thing, and that's that, we're taking it one day at a time, and, thankfully, the kids and the family as well, and at the end of the day, that's most important.
Good. It's good to hear that. Pretty much everybody that I've touched base with over the past week or so since I'm doing these interviews is hanging in there, and everybody's doing all right, so that's great to hear. Over the past week or so, and, the reason that I wanted to start touching base with people is so many people have different perspectives. We talked to Brent Alexander, we talked to Jimmy Harnon, we talked to Bill Kelly, we talked to AJ Jump. Everybody had a sort of a different position within the musical community that we spoke with. Yours is extremely unique with your job. Between the Penguins and all the other events that were on slate at Mohegan Sun Arena. I mean, how many events, Will, take us back to 4 or 5 weeks ago, did you have to postpone? It must have been
obviously, we have a lot going on. First with the Penguins, the AHL has suspended the season to this point, so assuming they don't resume, we would lose, I think they had 7 more home games to play, and then perhaps some playoff games, depending on how they did down the stretch. That season is still technically suspended. I think on May 1st, they're going to make a decision as to what they do with the remaining season. I think it's somewhat optimistic, or maybe too optimistic, to say that they'll find a way to play the games with the way everything's going right now, but we'll see what happens. And then outside of the hockey games, we had a great 2020 lined up. I was really excited about the shows we had announced. I was really excited about the shows that were confirmed and not yet announced. And that's pretty much all in shambles right now. We had a few shows in the spring that were obviously canceled. When this all came down, I feel like the second week of March, we were getting ready for an Aaron Lewis concert on Friday, March 13th, and it was Thursday, March 12th, that, the world kind of came to a stop. That's when Live Nation announced they were postponing or canceling all of their events, and then, AEG did the same thing, and then all of a sudden our Aaron Lewis concert was postponed as well, and that's really where it began for us. And, I think like everyone else, the question right now is how long does this last? What does it look like when we do come back? At first we saw all of our events in the spring kind of push back into the summer, and now we're seeing, those shows in the summer kind of push back to the fall, and we're seeing some shows in the fall, look for dates now in December and January. So I think nobody really knows what this is going to look like in the coming weeks. I feel like we're all acting and then reacting and then, reacting again as this thing unfolds. It's such a fluid situation that I think it's really tough to plan for. We just kind of keep pushing things back, hoping that we can return to some kind of normalcy sooner than later.
What was your reaction that week, Will? Go take us back to sitting at your desk 4 or 5 weeks ago when, here locally, the parades were canceled, and that was a big deal. And then, kind of out of nowhere, the big shoes started to drop fast. The NBA cancels the season. South by Southwest, an event that I know is very dear to you. I've always enjoyed seeing your posts on social media when you're down there checking out music, which I know you're down there having a good time, but you're also working. You're down there looking for talent that maybe you could bring for us here back home. And so, we appreciate that, and we appreciate you doing that. What was your reaction when you saw the NBA? Because that was fast, the basketball. That was just right away. What was your reaction?
Yeah. So first of all, the South by Southwest thing was the first major event, at least that I saw. Something that, as you said, is something that's kind of special to me and so many of us who love music. When that went away, that was kind of an eye-opener. But when you saw seasons like the NBA and the NHL put the entire season on hold, that's when I think, at least for me, that's when I stood up and realized, okay, this could be even bigger than I thought, and maybe we need to not just plan for, what does March and April and May look like, but what does the rest of this calendar year look like, And I think immediately you just naturally start thinking about, for me, it's, our budget, at the arena and the shows we have lined up, and what is that going to look like? And then on a personal level, I'm like, I had tickets to see Sturgill Simpson at the Met in Philly on March 14th, and that gets canceled. And then so I'm bummed about that. And I have tickets to see David Bromberg at Leave on Home Studios in Woodstock in June, and now that's been pushed back to December. So, on a personal level, you start bumming out about all this stuff you're missing. And then, I go home or I turn on the TV and, you hear about 849 people dying overnight in New York, or you hear about, you put on CNN and you see this digital tracker, on the top right-hand corner of the screen that's basically just counting the number of people who've died. And, it kind of puts things into perspective for you. And all of a sudden, your concert that you missed and, oh, by the way, you got a full refund on your tickets, all you missed out on was the experience. And that's only temporary as well. It kind of puts it into perspective, and you realize that there's bigger things going on. There's lives being lost. There are people who are way braver and stronger than I am, who are going to work every day, risking their lives to save the lives of others. And it's pretty heavy stuff, and I think life just sometimes has a way of putting things into perspective where all of a sudden your budget at work or, the tickets you had for that show next week aren't all that important after all.
It's so true. I mean, I had tickets with my sister. We were going to go see Sting in Philly. Yeah. It was May 1st, and tentatively rescheduled to November. We don't know. Right. And, you're bummed about that. But then I'm watching Governor Cuomo's press conference yesterday morning, and did one on Sunday. And he's talking about how things are getting better and better in New York. But then he drops but we still lost 500 people yesterday. Mm-hmm. It's getting better, and you're still losing 500 people a day. And so it certainly does put things in perspective about entertainment and so forth. And, we just have to ride it out. Have you had any conversations with folks like Live Nation or AG about, what might be coming? I mean, there are some shows, I believe, that are scheduled for the summer that technically haven't been postponed yet.
Yeah, and I think, the heavy hitters in the in the promotion industry, the Live Nations and the AEGs of the world, I think they know about as much as I do, and that's really nothing right now. We're all kind of taking it one day at a time. And, you'll see articles. I'm reading articles that say, no live events, no live concerts through 2020, maybe not even in 2021. And, you hear that, and I think that's a little worst case scenario. And then, my phone will ring, and I had an agent call me the other day and put hold on the calendar for a potential show in September, and have a promoter reaching out about trying to confirm a date in our building in December. So, I think nobody really knows, and that's the hard part about all this is, when does it end, and what does it look like when it does? And right now nobody really knows. So I think we're kind of kicking the can more or less right now. We're pushing things back a little bit, and then all right, maybe we got to push it back a little bit further. But nobody really knows, and that just kind of makes a tough situation even tougher.
It does make the rescheduling. I was saying to AJ, your friend AJ Jump the other day, everybody who's been in the entertainment business on the promotional side of it for any period of time has had a postponement, whether it was a weather event or an illness in the band or various circumstances.
Sure.
An outdoor event could be weather, and even in the summertime. And you just reschedule it. You talk to the artist and you pick a day and you put it back on the calendar. Sometimes it's a month down the road, sometimes it's 5 months down the road, but usually not that hard to do. This is impossible to do right now. So it's my heart goes out to all you folks that are doing it. I know you just had to do another one last week with I was a huge fan of the Rockin On The River that you were a big part of.
Yeah.
And so that's tentatively been put on. That's been postponed. Can you talk a little bit about that and what went into that decision?
Yeah.
Obviously, it was an easy decision in a way, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of these are easy but difficult decisions, and I think difficult for obvious reasons and also kind of easy for obvious reasons as well. You just want people to be safe right now. And, we were hopeful, I think, from a Rockin' the River standpoint that, there are challenges you have with indoor events that you don't necessarily have with outdoor open air events. So we were hopeful that maybe, we could do something where, we're still outside, and maybe people don't put their blankets right next to each other in the grass. Maybe they can just kind of be socially distant while they enjoy the music. But I know as this thing progresses, it just looks less and less likely that that's going to happen. So we're putting it on hold for now. We're hopeful that we can still do something maybe in the fall, maybe in September, late summer, something like that. We're going to take that one step at a time as well. We've also talked about the possibility of maybe doing the, kind of a virtual, Rockin' the River concert in July at the time when we would have normally, been outside on the river. So it's tough. There's a lot of, good people in the community who are doing these good things and are working hard to put stuff like this together. Ted Wampole over at the Visitors Bureau and Dave Pedri at the county and, Lindsay Griffin over at the chamber. And, everyone's kind of coming together to do these things for the community. And what a blast it was last summer. The first time we did it, and we couldn't have asked for anything better. The weather was great. The crowds were great. The music was great. It just went so well, and we were excited to build on that this year. And, unfortunately, it's out of our control and doesn't look like it's going to happen, at least not in July. So, we'll see what happens, hopefully later this summer, or if not, we'll definitely be back next year.
I know I told you this when we had you on the River radio station last summer to help talk about those, but I was so appreciative to see your great team put that together. I'm a huge River Common fan in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I just walk there all the time. It's my favorite place to go for a stroll. I love the Susquehanna, and I love the river. And about 10 years ago, I did a small music series there, working with the chamber, where we had a summer series once a week with original music down on the other end where the little amphitheater is, down towards Wilkes.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of fun. And, I guess that was just budgeted for that one season with the city. And then it went away, and no one ever did anything again. So you guys just took it up to a whole other level, and I was at every one of them. And, thank you for doing that. And, we're all rooting for you to get back up there, whether it be in the ways you just described or next summer, it's something if you haven't been if anybody listening to the podcast, the Rockin' on the River is a music series that takes place at River Common in Wilkes-Barre. In the summer, they did it for about a month last year. Was it 4 weeks, Will, if I recall?
We did 3 weeks last July. I think, the aim was to kind of avoid that 4th of July weekend and then do every other Friday in July. And then this year we were lucky enough to have 5 Fridays in July, so we were going to avoid the 4th of July weekend again, but then still have 4 more Fridays to work with. So this year we were going to do 1 extra week. We were going to do 4 instead of 3, but obviously that's on hold for now. But you're right, it's a beautiful space. We're really lucky to have it. I think it could be used more, certainly, than it is. There are a lot of people doing good things down there, but there's more that we can do. And, to go to those concerts last summer and see the river as the backdrop with the Market Street Bridge off to the left, and it's just a perfect setting, and sit in the grass and have a drink and listen to music. It's really what that space was meant for, and it was nice to see, and we look forward to doing it again soon.
Well, we'll look forward to it, and please let us know because, the river would like to be involved with that. We've talked about that a little bit.
We have,
Let's talk a little bit about some non-COVID-19 stuff. you know, when you were at the FM Kirby Center for a bunch of years, you really revitalized that venue. I thought, not that it always wasn't a beautiful venue, and not that they always weren't doing wonderful shows, but it seemed like it was much busier under your leadership, more eclectic acts, different, you know, the stuff that was always there for children, and great kids shows and plays and concerts with it, but you were bringing in different type of artists, probably the type of artists that you discovered doing things by Southwest.
Sure.
And you really just gave the Kirby, I thought, a terrific shot in the arm. And so when you went up to the arena, and I know I told you this because we talked about it at the time, I think it was an email I sent you, I was excited because I was hoping you could do the same thing for the arena. If you recall, when that arena opened in 1999, for I'd say a good maybe 6-7 years, you know, we had Prince, we had Sting, we had Janet Jackson, we had AC/DC, we had Bon Jovi, Elton John, John Mellencamp.
Sure.
Cher. I covered all those shows. And it seemed like, maybe because it was from a routing perspective from tours, it was a perfect spot because we were 2 hours from Philadelphia, not 1 hour from Philadelphia. So I kind of thought maybe we were pulling some of those shows from Allentown, certainly from Binghamton. And let's be honest, we kind of saw that go away. You know, we did not see that many major tours coming through. I know that it's probably one of your goals is to get that arena back on those sort of tour maps. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for your kind words again about, you know, the time at the Kirby Center. That was nearly 10 years, and I loved every minute of it. You know, I'll forever be thankful, you know, for the opportunity that the board of directors over there gave me when they appointed me managing director and eventually executive director. You know, I think they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at the time, and I'm glad that they did that. It changed my life in so many ways. I think, you know, for me over there at the Kirby Center, I wanted two things. One, I wanted to keep the doors open and the lights on as many nights as possible. And, you know, I wanted some of these acts that I had to personally drive to Philadelphia and New York City to see to kind of come in our backyard. And I felt, you talked a little bit about the geography. It can be helpful from a routing standpoint, you know, to be kind of smack in the middle of Philadelphia and New York City. You know, so we kind of wanted to be a little more aggressive. And you know, we went out and we promoted the shows ourselves, and we put some money on the line, and we brought in some bigger names and paid a little more money for them, and, you know, therefore had to charge a little bit more from a ticket standpoint. But, you know, we saw that people were willing to pay a little bit more to see these bigger names in an intimate setting like that one, you know, and it really paid off for us. And, you know, we were cranking out the shows. I think we were doing, when I first got there, about 50 events a year, and when I left, we were doing about 150 events a year. So, you know, we had a lot of fun doing that. It was definitely a group effort, and I was proud to kind of lead that way. And I'll always be proud of the fact that I was a part of that beautiful building downtown, which is so important to our community. But it was a group effort, and a lot of that group remains in place now that I'm gone, and they're going to continue to do great things. And, you know, from an arena standpoint, I think you're right. I think, you know, at first, venues, when they first open, they're blessed to be, you know, kind of the new kid on the block. They're the new shiny venue, and that's a place that, you know, tours want to go to. And then I think, like anything else, that honeymoon period kind of wears off, and then it becomes a little more difficult to get the acts. And if you also look at what has happened over those 20 years, you know, there's a lot more competition now. You know, there's the PPL Center in Allentown, and there's, you know, they're doing great things. And there's the Giant Center in Hershey, and they're doing great things. And
exactly,
you know, Wind Creek Event Center was at the Sands. Now it's Wind Creek Event Center. I mean, they're a smaller room, but they're getting big names in as well. So you have opportunities to route performances with these venues, and that's helpful. But then you also have, you know, artists that aren't going to play all of those markets. They're only going to play one, maybe two of them, and then all of a sudden you're competing with those venues to get some acts. So, you know, it's certainly my hope that we can continue to do at the arena what we did at the Kirby Center, and that is just keep those doors open and those lights on as many nights as possible. And like I said, I think we were off to a pretty good start. You know, it took a little bit for me coming in. It'll be about a year ago next week that I announced that I was leaving the Kirby Center. And, you know, I was spinning my wheels a little bit, I feel like, going from the theater to the arena setting. And I think you and I even had a conversation about this online. And I said it's only a matter of time before, you know, we kind of gain our traction in the arena world and start doing good things. And I feel like we were doing that. You know, I was excited about, you know, the Alice Cooper show and the Bob Dylan show. And, you know, we had a couple of really good ones we were getting ready to announce. And then unfortunately, you know, this happens and you know, it's beyond all of our control, and it kind of brings everything to a halt. But I was encouraged by what we were doing, and I think once we get through this, you know, this unprecedented time, we'll kind of hit the ground running again and continue to do good things.
Whenever I saw those shows being announced, the Alice Cooper and the Dylan, I smile. I said, Will's doing his thing, you know, and our arena is in good hands. So I knew that would be a goal of yours, and you're already starting to do it, you know. So congratulations on that. Let's talk about your interest. You know, here you are dealing with some of the top entertainers in the world at the arena and previously at the Kirby, and even going back to when you were at the Bryce Jordan Center. You were there previously, correct?
I was there for almost 3 years. Before coming to the Kirby Center
at State College. So you've been dealing with big names for a long time, and yet one of the things that I think we all appreciate about you is that you also invest yourself in the local music scene. You know, you started the Chandelier series at the Kirby, where you were able to bring in artists to play that beautiful room, and some of those cabinet shows were incredible. And you know, some of the other ones that you know, pretty much, you know, I mean, I just saw a Dustin Douglas show there last year at the Chandelier. That's something that I think really had never been done before. Talk to us a little bit, Will, about, you know, how that started. What inspired you to want to reach out to, you know, you said you had 150 shows in the building. It was incredibly busy, but you still made sure that you made time and set some of those shows aside for our own artists right here in northeastern Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think it goes back to just, you know, having a love for music in general, and I know that's something that you and I both share. And also, we're really lucky to have the amount of talent that we have in this area, or who are, you know, artists who are from this area and may not live here now. But there's just so much going on in this area that's worth seeing and worth hearing. You know, I would go to these booking conferences in Nashville or New York or LA, and we would talk to these agents, and they would say, hey, I know you have 1,800 seats in the Kirby Center. Do you have a smaller room as well? Because we have some up-and-coming acts that, you know, might not be playing to 1,000 seats yet, but they're doing, you know, 250 or 400. And do you have another room? And for a couple of years, I was saying, no, we don't. And then one day I was just walking through that big lobby down there, and it kind of hit me, and I said, you know, maybe we do have a smaller space. You know, it's going to take some, you know, some getting used to. We're going to have to kind of work a little bit on lighting and sound, and I think that's still a work in progress over there. But maybe we do have a space here where we can give a stage to some of these artists who, you know, aren't playing to 1,000 or 1,500 seats, but are making great music or are making great theater and deserve to be seen and deserve to be heard. So we started that up, and I think the very first one we had was Amy Helm, Levon's daughter, and her band, and it was the first event in the lobby, and about 3/4 of the way through, we had a lot of people who were there. I don't think they knew who Amy was necessarily. Some of them did, but I think a lot of them just wanted to see what this new series was all about. And about 3/4 of the way through, her and the band unplugged their instruments and walked right into the middle of the crowd in front of the bar in that main lobby and just started playing songs right in front of the people. And I remember looking at, you know, a coworker of mine, we just kind of smiled and said, you know, I think we have something here. So, you know, we were kind of off and running from there. And you know, it's important, like I said, to kind of give that space to those artists. But again, it goes back to us just trying to be busy and trying to keep the doors open and trying to get people in that beautiful space, you know. And we're lucky to have that building in general in our area, and I think communities need more of those. and it's a big lobby, and we were able to use it, and I'm thankful for that. Some of the best shows I've seen at the Kirby Center were inside that lobby.
And so when you went down to that, when you got that idea, that light bulb moment walking through, you were then able to bring in artists like that were not up to the 1,000, 1,800 level yet, 250 or so. And then I guess the next step was, I think we have some people right here from our community that can do some of these shows. And so that was just a terrific, terrific gesture, and I know something that was really appreciated. Your next endeavor, I think you're going to officially announce this today, is a partnership with the arena and with Karl Hall, which will also put some spotlights on local music. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think the press release is going out today. It's called NEPA Live From Home. And I think one of the silver linings, and I keep trying to find silver linings to this whole situation we're in right now, is seeing all the great things that local, regional, and national artists are doing online, bringing us some of their songs from their living room or from their kitchen or, from their library or whatever the case may be, their little home studios. And that's something that I hope, as much as I want to get back to seeing live concerts, that's something that I hope doesn't go away when this thing is over, because it's such a great way to see people just kind of stripped down doing their music. And, this is kind of along those lines. I really should give a hat tip to our director of sales and marketing, Steve Paremba, at the arena. Steve's been there for 15 years and does a great job. And he called me one morning and said, "What do you think about doing this?" And I loved the idea, and I right away called my friend AJ Jump, because if there's anyone who has kind of a finger on the pulse of local and regional talent, it's AJ. And I said, "Listen, we want to put something together. We're going to call it NEPA Live From Home." And there's kind of a double meaning there on the word live, because you can read it as, live from home, which is kind of something we're all doing right now. But I said, but we want to give these local and regional artists a platform on which they can stream their live performances, and maybe with our following on our social media, we can get this in front of as many eyes as possible, give them a chance to maybe put out that virtual tip jar, make a few bucks at a time when they can't put on shows. And AJ was he was quick to jump on board, as he always is, and we just kind of put our heads together. So we're excited about it. We'll announce that today, and then I think we're announcing the full lineup of acts later, either this week or next week. But it's going to be called NEPA Live From Home, and we're going to be doing like a weekly episode. It's basically going to consist of an artist doing 3 songs and then a little question and answer period with the audience, telling a little bit more about the artist themselves, and we're excited about it. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine at Geisinger about something unrelated, and I brought up this idea, and they were quick to say, "We love it, and we want to be a part of it as well." So Geisinger is going to help support that, and like I said, make some money for some of these artists, but also maybe we can use Geisinger to raise awareness and kind of give people ways that they can help join in this fight, to kind of stop the spread of COVID-19 as well. So it's kind of a fun story, I think. The smaller venue in town and the bigger venue in town getting together to do a good thing for the community. And like I said earlier, there's some great talent in this community, so it's a chance for them to kind of showcase that.
How will it work, Will? Will they do the performance from home, and then it will be shared on the social media platforms of Karl Hall and Geisinger and Mohegan Sun Arena? Yeah,
so the plan would be to share them on the Instagram and Facebook pages for both of the venues. I don't believe Geisinger is going to share it as well, although maybe we can do that. I think, again, trying to get it in front of as many people as possible is the goal here, so we can certainly look at that as well. But I think between AJ's done a great job in a short period of time over there at Karl Hall, and he's grown quite the audience over there. So I think between his venue and ours and our social media following, we're going to get it out there in front of a lot of people.
Well, we'll look forward to watching those podcasts. Not podcasts, but live streams, I should say. I'm doing the podcast.
You do the podcast.
We'll look forward to watching those on those platforms. So Mohegan Sun Arena and Karl Hall for sure, and there'll be more about that out there in the news later this afternoon. Well, we're all kind of hunkered down here And, we've all been homebound for over a month. I thought if there's anybody that could just tell us some great stories real briefly, it would be you. I did a story, I think it was the 10th anniversary of the Kirby Center back in '96, and I got the best assignment. We did a big thing at the Times Leader where there was a story about the renovations, and then there was a story about Al Boscov's involvement, and there was a story about the history of the theater. And I thought, the best assignment of all. I just got to talk to some of the people over there and say, hey, tell me some great stories about the artists that have come over here through the past 10 years. And I want to ask you a similar question. What is one of your, it doesn't even have to be at the Kirby, it could be at Bryce Jordan Center, it could be at the Mohegan Sun Arena, anywhere that you've worked professionally with some of these national artists. What was the most pleasant experience that you had?
Yeah, that's a tough one because I had so many of them, and I know I'm really blessed to be able to say that.
We had people. Us a couple.
Yeah, we had people we had people like Tony Bennett, who came through in the Kirby's 25th anniversary season, and after the show, he asked his tour manager to go and round up anyone who works at the venue who was still in the venue. This was probably about 10 o'clock at night. And said to bring them all down. He wants to say hi to everyone and thank them for having him. And, when you normally are on the other side of that fence and you're the one saying, hey, can the artist give us 2 minutes just to say hello? Here was an artist saying, I want to meet everyone who works here who's still in the building. And we all lined up and we went in his dressing room one at a time. And he didn't just say hi or shake a hand or take a picture. He wanted to know, what's your name? What do you do here? And he spent probably a good half hour talking to everyone individually. And I thought that was really nice and something that has always stuck with me. And we've had people like I had a great experience with John Prine, who we lost last week, and that was a tough one. I was going to ask
you about John Prine because I know you were a big fan. I saw your posts and I saw a beautiful autographed tour poster that he went out of his way to make sure you had. It's a nice story in itself. Can you tell us about what happened at the Kirby that night with John Prine?
Yeah, it's the only artist who ever, and I'm sorry, I get a little choked up just talking about it, quite honestly. The only artist who ever signed something for me without me asking, him or her to do it. That was a tough night, for a couple of reasons. We had someone in the building who was not on our side, but on the show's side, who lost someone in their family very close to them unexpectedly while I was literally standing next to them, backstage. And to watch this person's life kind of crumble right in front of my eyes was really tough. It made it a very difficult night. And John and his wife, Fiona, who is just an absolute sweetheart as well, they were aware of what was going on, and they just couldn't have been kinder, to the people involved. And it's all they really cared about before the show and after the show. And I think John knew that it was a tough night for a lot of people. And when I was leaving that evening, the tour manager said, hey, I forgot to give this to you. John wanted you to have it. And it was a tour poster from that tour that he had signed to me. It was just it was one of those special nights. It was a difficult night, but it was a special night. And I wanted more of those experiences with John. I only had that one, but I'm thankful to have had that one night with him. He's, if you want to talk about my own personal, Mount Rushmore of songwriters, John's, a number one on that, for me. And I say that as a guy who loves Bob Dylan and Chris Christopherson and, Townsend and some of these great songwriters and some of the more contemporary guys like Jason Isbell and, Hayes Carl, I think writes great songs, but, there was no one better than John Prine. And that was a tough one. It's, to me, it shows the power of music because you grow up listening to someone and their words and their songs mean so much to you that when they pass, it's almost like you lost someone close to you. And, when I got the news that John had passed, I cried, like real man tears streaming down my face. My wife walked in the room and didn't know what was going on, and she freaked out that someone, really close to us had passed, or that something really bad had happened to someone that we know personally. But it just shows you how powerful music is, that it felt like you lost someone really close to you. So that was a tough one. His wife Fiona had contracted COVID-19 2 weeks prior to that. Luckily she recovered and is doing well. And because she had the virus prior to John, they felt pretty comfortable that she wouldn't get it a second time, so she was at least able to be by his side during his final days. But that was a big loss, not just for music, but for, American culture in general. He was a good one.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time this morning. And, thank you on behalf of everybody in Northeastern Pennsylvania. You've put a lot of music on our menu, no pun intended. That's the name of my show and my column, but you do it more than anybody. And I hope that you can get out. I know you're probably missing your Mets terribly, and you would have probably been out to probably a game or two by now. And so, I hope that somehow we could get back to normal. And I also want to thank your wife, Katie. She also, through her work with the Rail Riders, she helps provide us with so many good times and so much entertainment. So, and I hope you and your wife and the girls are hanging in there all right. Sounds like you are. And I just wanted to thank you again for your time today.
Well, thank you again for having me, and again for your kind words. I think we're really lucky to live, work, and play in this area. There's a lot of great things going on, and I'm excited to be a small part of it. My wife is as well, but there's so many people doing great things, and you're certainly included in that. So thanks for for what you do, and thanks for having me on today.
All right, stay safe, my friend. We'll be in touch.
You do the same, buddy.